Welcome to the channel and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Today we will be reviewing a watch from a relatively new brand which has emerged on AliExpress, Militado. And by now many of you would have heard of some of the models and seen some reviews. The model we are looking at today is the ML04, which is a battery powered quartz chronograph model, and this being a homage watch, you know it has striking similarities to models from the like of IWC. Now, it's not the first time we've seen this style of watch. There have been a couple of others who have done this design previously. I think Mysterious Code was one of them, and a few other brands. Now, I've always wanted to get my hands on one of these styles, but I simply never got around to it until Militado decided to send me one in for review. So here we go, the ML04. Specs wise, it fits in with the current market. AR coated sapphire crystal, a screw down crown and a screw down case back, offering 100 meters of water resistance and a Miyota OS00 quartz chronograph movement. Dimensions include a 39mm case with a 12mm case thickness and a 47mm lug to lug with a 20mm lug width. This is also available in a few different colors, the steel case with a black dial and this blue I have in hand, a PVD version and a bronze and green dial version. Now, all of which are available for around £99 on AliExpress or around £70 on Militado's website. They're also sold on websites like Watch Dives. So it's a good price. It is very competitive, and as we all know, with brands like Steel Dive and Watch Dives bringing us astonishing value for money, it is a packed market. So does this watch do anything to stand out or at least keep up with the rest? Now, the first thing I always tend to look at is the quality of the dial. Now, this being a sunburst blue, it means it's very eye-catching and it looks great outdoors. You've got a fully printed dial which is really legible, and everything is nice and crisp, and the Arabics are printed in loom, which you get plenty of for such a low price point. You have BGW9 loom and a very adequate layering with more than reasonable brightness. You've got an offset framed day-date window nicely finished with properly aligned day-date wheels. The three subdials are detailed nicely with good definition, and as are the polished hands, and you've got a very decent shape to the handset and does make them quite visible. You've also got a splash of red at the 6 o'clock subdial, which is the running seconds hand, which does make it stand out. Now, the main handset is finished noticeably nicer. In hand, it really stood out. You got very high quality polishing with a slight chamfer, which makes them stand out and look a lot nicer than the plainer flat hands you tend to see on these style of pilot watches. Unfortunately, the seconds chronograph hand is misaligned, and even when you try to fix it by resetting the movement or manually adjusting that seconds hand, it does not line up dead center, and that's because it was assembled incorrectly. So anyone who has crippling OCD, you will switch off instantly and find this a deal breaker. Now, if the hands were aligned, I would give the dial side top marks, but I do have another issue, and that is the movement they have used. I get they wanted a certain dial configuration, which is why they opted for this Miyota, but I'm not a fan of how it runs. First off, the chronograph seconds hand, I really dislike the old school bouncing tick, and I much prefer to see a bit of a sweep, the type we get from Seiko Mecha Quartz movements. The second issue is the feel. While the initial push of the A button is firm and tactile, the following pushes are muted and you don't really feel much feedback, or you don't really feel the feel of a button when you press it. Now, again, my preference is the Seiko movements. Now, when you do have a chronograph watch, I feel half of the fun for me is the way the pushes feel. Now, this alone puts me off quite a bit, but the movement is still very accurate and reliable. Now, when we move on to the case, this is what brings me back into this watch. The finishing is very high end and it makes me like the watch so much more. It's got definition and finishing at a standard which I haven't seen much on watches of this category. You have a thin polished bezel, which looks very nicely proportioned against the case, and you have satin-like circular brushing across the A face with good consistency. They've also added tapered polished bevels to the edge of the lugs and followed up by the same soft brushing along the sides of the case. Now, you can judge how nice the case finishing is by just how nice and crisp the transition lines are. They are very well defined and it definitely elevates the case in looks and appeal. Now, the crown is a healthy diameter at 7mm and engages very nicely with plenty of grip on offer. Now, the case back is nothing to look at. It's a plain Rolex style case back, but you do get to see quick release bars used for this strap, which I have to say isn't that high quality because this watch only comes with a strap option, so I feel a bit more money should have been spent on it to give it a really nice grade leather. This one seems cheap and it's probably going to crack with not a lot of use. They do, however, offer a FKM rubber strap version, which I think you should go for. Another thing which really does appeal is the sizing of this watch. Now, unlike the inspiration for this watch, this 39mm case is so much better and it fits really well on wrist due to it being that 39mm. The lug to lug is also shorter and so much more balanced on wrist and smaller wrist friendly. It's got really good presence on my 6.5-inch wrist, great legibility, and wears great with a highly finished case. You just have to take into consideration the couple of moans I had earlier regarding the alignment and the movement function before you consider purchasing this. So over to you guys, let me know your thoughts below, share with the rest of the community, and that is it from me, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.